All right, so today we are talking about defense immortals for Infinity Kingdom. Just like last one, we're going to be talking about the immortals at their base level, what they bring to a team, and how flexible they are as a whole. We will talk about unique artifacts a little later on towards the end of it, but for the defense immortals, it actually doesn't change where they stand very much at all to me, but we'll cover that towards the end. Jumping right into it, we'll start with Ragnar. Ragnar is middle of the tier, middle of the pack B tier for me. He is like all these defensive mortals. He is tanky. That's what he is. He is a physical damage tank. He eats physical damage well. He provides increased magical damage dealt to the enemy team. So he is pretty generic. He can fit into a lot of comps. He can fit in with any mage comp that you want to run. The issue is there are a lot of comps right now that aren't running mages. There's the GK, Alex, Earth teams. There's the Holy team. There's Liz, Water teams. There's the Fire team with the new Fire Archer. So there's a bunch of teams that are more physical damage related right now, so that holds him back from an A tier. But there are enough magic damage carries in the game still that are still strong to keep him out of the C tier. Trajan is textbook A tier for me. He is so close to S tier, but the way his ability works holds him back a little bit. He provides crit rate to fire immortals after they use their ability, and crit damage to all immortals. So the fact that he does it after their ability means after their ability hits means that they're not getting that crit rate for that ability cast. They're only getting it for their Tower of Knowledge skills, really. And on top of that, it being only on fire immortals ties him very heavily to fire, because if you put him in earth or holy or water or any of those other elements, he's not giving them the crit rate. He is giving them the crit damage, but crit damage doesn't mean anything if you don't crit. So the crit rate is what enables the crit damage to really pop off in the marches that he's good in. So if he gave it to all immortals, gave the crit rate to all immortals, or if he gave crit rate before they cast their ability, maybe either one of those two things would be enough to bump him S tier for me. But with just the way the crit rate is given, it holds it back a little bit from me from being just a generic S tier. Going on to Wind, we have Arthur first, and Arthur is generically just F tier right now. He is good for single target. He's good for bosses. He's good for spiders because he has that reflect damage. So you put him in the top spot, put lifelink on him. Lifelink reflects damage. He reflects damage. He just lets the enemy boss that hits super hard in a single target fight kill themselves. But for PvP, it's inconsistent because he's only doing damage when he's dealt damage. He's only providing self-damage reduction. So if the rest of the team dies around him and you have him stacked in a way that he can't die, in theory, he's still never going to kill the enemy team. He's still never going to do enough. He's not saving your backliners or frontliners. The one saving grace he might have would be if you paired him with assist or guard. That way he's forcibly taking more hits to reflect more damage. But that's still a proc chance on there, and that's under a specific build. So there are ways you could probably make him viable at a low end. His saving grace right now is he's not Saladin. So he is something tanky to sit in the front line of like a Wind team to let Hannibal just run all over the enemy team and buy time. But overall, F tier with some niche cases where you could maybe call him C for Arthur. Hideyoshi is untested. I believe he is currently the end of season rewards for this Conquest season. And the big thing with him is he provides dodge to your team. And when your team dodges, he increases the damage they deal and the damage the enemy receives by, I believe it's 30% once it's done. Now, actually, I misspoke. He's not the next season. I just haven't seen him built yet. He was last season. So the thing with him is, in theory, I would probably call him a B tier because he works really well with Wind. In theory, Wind has high dodge. He wants to increase that damage for something like the Hannibal, who's constantly chipping away. So that increased damage and increased or decreased damage received that he does when your team does dodge is really big for that team that doesn't have that sustain in it right now. And dodge can be a really good factor into it can be a really good factor into the auto attack comps, the Hannibal Alex comps that are out there right now. It can be really good into Lightning, which is primarily a GK carry comp. So I think he has a lot of cases where he can be strong, but until I see something with him, I don't feel comfortable giving him a rating, but my gut reaction is probably a B tier. Jumping into Lightning, we'll actually address Richard and El Cid at the same time. I put Richard and El Cid both B tier. I put Richard on the low side of B tier right now, and El Cid on the high side of B tier. Richard generically was viewed for a long time as just the better Immortal. He provides stun, he controls the enemy team. What's there not to love about it? But the thing is, its stun rate at a base level is 40%, and he has low accuracy by being a defense Immortal. So he gets an attack dodged pretty regularly. That means he's only getting 2 stun attempts off per cast, a lot of times not 3, 40%. So there will be times that he just doesn't stun anyone for a cast because he's just getting really bad RNG, which that happens, but realistically it's going to happen more often than not in theory. And what I've seen is, even with the artifact increase by 20%, you're still ending up in a lot of cases where he's missing 2 stuns, and maybe if you're lucky, he's getting 1 because of that accuracy dodge check right now. The big thing that he had going for him for a long time is he's synergized with the Lightning Dragon skill 1. If stunned, double damage. But right now, with the Dragon talents coming out, the best Dragon talent generically for Lightning right now actually removes that stipulation. So he no longer amps up the Dragon skill 1. El Cid, on the other hand, traditionally viewed weak, is actually coming into a place where he has a lot of value right now. Reduces physical damage dealt on the frontliners. That's great. Holy is running rampant right now. The auto attack comp, the Hannibal Alex comp, is running rampant right now. So reducing physical damage for those teams is great. Also, whenever normal attacked, he deals a small amount of damage back to the enemy. That is huge for this double auto attack comp. This is a hard counter Immortal for the Hannibal and the Alex that just want to attack, attack, attack. You see some of these builds where they're attacking 60 times in a 35-40 second fight, and that is just massive amounts of damage sent back at them from him. He's great into those kind of comps and good into a lot of these physical damage comps that are popping up right now. Leonidas, I drop into the F tier ahead of Arthur. He does self-damage reduction and hits all the enemies for a little bit of damage. None of these guys do a lot of damage because defense Immortal. They don't have the stats to back it up. But he doesn't do a lot of damage. He just self-damage reductions. The rest of the team dies around him, and he does nothing to help the rest of the team. And it's not like he's going to carry the fight late. Where YSS, as an example, he gives damage reduction to the whole team, 30%. So he helps the whole team stay alive. Generically, that is the same thing as saying, oh, you just disarmed the enemy team, all of them, by 30%, because that's what disarm is it reduces the damage they deal by 30%. He's essentially a full team disarm for 6 seconds at a time. That's generically just strong. It's enough that I consider putting him in A tier. I just haven't seen enough builds with him yet to put him up there. So right now he's in the B tier, but my gut is he's actually probably A. We'll have to see with more builds if he actually holds the value that I think he has. Charles is the S tier. He is the one S tier of this group. He provides that shield that just blocks all that incoming damage. He is the best defensive immortal in the game by far. He fits in every comp way better than any of these other immortals, because it doesn't matter what damage type, doesn't matter what's going on. The only time he doesn't fit into a comp is when there's no damage on the team. And even then, there's a world where maybe he does, because maybe the whole goal of that team is just to stall. Bjorn is A tier, maybe B tier, depending on how you view it. I say A tier kit, but I would personally view him as a B tier. And what I mean by that is his kit is good. It increases damage dealt, gives your team resilience, and gives healing, gives lifesteal based off of physical attack damage. That's a A tier kit. That provides a lot to the team. The problem is he's a Shadow Immortal. He costs a decent amount. So I can't say that I would run him in Lightning over El Cid or Richard, because the amount that he costs to what he's giving compared to them isn't enough to say that he's actually that good. He fits really well if you're just dropping the money to spend him, but most people should not be spending on him for what he gives. Caesar, I put in C tier. He would be B tier, but right now with a lot of these comps going to mono type carries, such as just mage carries, just physical damage carries, he only is really disarming one of the carries on most of these teams. Now, to quickly go over the changes for unique artifacts, it would basically be this right here. That's about it for unique artifacts. Maybe Julius Caesar comes up to beat. El Cid reflects damage all the time for it, so he goes up. Julius Caesar now has 100% activation on his disarm, and Leonidas now pushes back energy. But those things aren't enough to make them game-breakingly stronger or game-breakingly better. So right now, this is the generic standpoint for what I have. I'm interested in feedback, because I feel like the El Cid is definitely being valued more by me than by most people right now. So I am definitely interested in feedback, comments, and your guys' thoughts on the Immortals and where I put them. That's all for this one, though. I think we'll be covering mages in the next one. Mages and probably supports together. We'll see.